You're listening to The World at 8 with Lynn Mozart. The World at 8, the number one in nationalist news.
Highlights of the news today, Friday the 27th of December 2013. Britain's new no-go areas for Roma. £30 million for wind turbines that don't work when it's windy. Foreign doctor attacked female patient who disagreed with diagnosis. Burglar returned to rape victim and the awesome courage that saved her. 9 in 10 babies born in parts of Britain have a foreign parent. Thought for the day, just a small one, honestly. And finally, talk about small shots below the belt. UK news, and it's just the UK news today, my friends. Britain's new no-go areas for Roma. Exclusion zones could be set up around tourist hotspots and major public areas to stop an expected surge of Roma migrants sleeping rough and harassing passers-by with aggressive begging. The Mail on Sunday can reveal. New powers called Public Space Protection Orders, PSPOs, which come into operation next April, will be deployed to stop gangs of homeless Eastern Europeans squatting around some of the country's most famous landmarks and transport hubs. The move comes as Bulgarians and Romanians are handed unrestricted working rights in the UK from January the 1st, prompting fears that up to 50,000 people from those countries will come here every year for the next 5 years. And the rest. Police are being given new powers to enforce a rough sleeping exclusion zone around tourist hotspots in London. The new powers could be used to create no-go areas around Marble Arch, Park Lane and Victoria Station, scenes of an 18-month fight to remove Roma squatters. A spokesman for the Home Office said PSPOs, part of the Antisocial Behaviour, Crime and Policing Bill, currently going through Parliament, would speed up Council's ability to stamp out problems. He added, "We are bringing in new, fast and adaptable powers to make it quicker and easier for local authorities to protect their communities while protecting the freedoms of law-abiding people." £30 million for wind turbines that don't work when it's windy. Wind farms have been paid a record £30 million this year to stand idle in bad weather. The cash, which comes from household bills, is paid when the national grid is unable to cope with the extra power produced during high winds or during periods of low demand. The constraint payments have reached £30,424,169 this year, compared with last year's £5 million. In just one weekend at the start of September, around 40 wind farm firms were paid £2.4 million to switch off. The energy they would have produced in that time could have powered up to 10,000 homes. Another windy weekend in August saw £3.1 million handed to energy firms for doing absolutely nothing. Up to 30 wind farms were paid. Foreign doctor attacked female patient who disagreed with diagnosis. A foreign doctor attacked a female patient in his surgery when she disagreed with his diagnosis. Dr Abiodun Bale, 42, grabbed Sheena Cunningham as she tried to leave his consultation room in tears after they argued over treatment for a facial condition. The doctor from Nigeria denied assault when he appeared in court, but was found guilty after a 2-day trial. World at 8. What is the matter with these Africans? Are they all bloody, balmy and violent? I know they all seem to be over here. Burglar returned to rape victim and the awesome courage that saved her. Daniela Vinci relates, "Then I saw him, I immediately realised I was in serious danger and knew instinctively it was the same man who had stolen my belongings 2 days before. In that awful moment the training I'd done when I began work as an airline stewardess kicked in. Keeping my voice as steady as I could, I said, 'What's your name? What are you doing here?' He replied, 'My name is Josh and I'm 19. Daniela fought off her attacker and ultimately he fled her home. Police would later discover that he was Joseph Innocent Mowara, a Kenyan who had committed a violent knife crime within a year of being granted a British passport at the age of 16. World at 8. And yes, he will be given a soft sentence and allowed to stay. You can bet your bottom dollars. 9 in 10 babies born in parts of Britain have a foreign parent. Almost 9 in 10 babies born in parts of Britain have at least one foreign-born parent, official figures have revealed the first time. The Office for National Statistics disclosed that in 2012 more than 80% of the babies born in 3 London boroughs had either one or both parents born outside the UK. Across London, nearly 7 in 10 babies had at least one non-British father or mother, while across England and Wales the figure was 1 in 3. World at 8. Goodness gracious, they're even calling them non-British, so they must be very foreign, mustn't they? How about the so-called British-born ones then? If you include them, the number must be doubled. Thought for the day, just a small one, honest. I was going to leave everyone in peace just after the Christmas celebs, but on reading the Daily Mail today I'm in full voice yet again, but I will keep it short. I do however have a few New Year's resolutions for this country, its government and its English residents to live up to, so here goes. Keep the UN out of anything to do with this country. They have a habit of ballsing up any country they set their feet on or give opinions over, and a possible ethnic profiling of asylum seekers and refugees is something this country and Europe should have been doing for the last 50 years, and then we wouldn't have the problems we all have now. Keep away. The sales in London. The so-called customers have been looking a bit suspicious for years now. How can one say it without being racist? Well, put it like this. Shabby, dark and desperate could put it in a nutshell, but this lot at Harrods really take the biscuit. What I really hate is the fact that the paper seems to think these people have just come over for the sales and will go back whence they came. No matey, they've just come up on a tube or bus and will go back into our capital city with their hordes of expensive things. Just be thankful we don't have the riots of 2 years ago at the same time, and then they won't be paying anything at all, but would in all probability be a little bit darker, dare I say it, yup I dare. The floods and awful weather. Yup, well don't build houses on floodplains, marshes or fields near small rivers. Britain did not suffer permanently from floods 500 years ago because we had marshes in between the seas and rivers and arable land. Now we have concrete, so what do you expect? Plus of course the weight of millions are just too many people on the sodding island anyway. A so-called mother wins rights to stay in UK to see baby she stabbed. Well, yet another stupid old legal beagle really hits the bell with the hammer big time. Stupid old fart should be shot, alongside the various assortment of judges who have let Muslims get away with murder or rape or both, literally. This Bangladeshi woman was of course brought over to us without any English or any discernible brains as well in an arranged marriage, made pregnant of course and had what one would call a Bangla hissy fit when she proved to be somewhat odd, and her husband and of course his family decided she should go home. So she ran about, lost her cool and stabbed her baby. She was given 5 years in our prisons when she should have been committed or deported back to Bangladesh. This sentence was given to her by the same Mr Justice Mostyn, who sat in on the compulsory caesarean section given to the Italian woman. So clearly he prefers a darker shade of hue to deal with. But now she's been given leave to stay in this country because of Mostyn's theme that from small beginnings some sort of relationship could occur. As if anyone really gives an effing whatever about these two. Send them all back, her husband, his family and her baby, and let them get on with it. If this and thousands of other families were not here, we might be better off financially and every other way. They cost us dearly, and clearly our judges are not fit for purpose in dealing with foreign criminals. Talk about care in the community, not. Then we have the laugh of the year, or rather not. This is the second time that Karen Downs, mother of Charlene Downs, has been in the DM. This time she has a stalker, which is of course all her fault, and the wording around the disappearance of her daughter is worthy of a comic award. And I quote, Mrs Downs' daughter disappeared in Blackpool in November 2003. Police believe her body was put in a mincing machine and made into kebabs and burgers sold from a takeaway in the town. Although 2 business partners were later tried for her murder, they were acquitted and no one has ever been held responsible. Police believe Charlene fell victim to child sex gangs centred on takeaway restaurants in Blackpool at the age of 12. They claim she was sexually abused by as many as 100 men in the run-up to her death. In 2007, Iyad al-Batiki and Mohammed Raveshi were tried for murdering Charlene, but a jury failed to reach a verdict and a retrial collapsed. They later received a 6-figure compensation sum for false imprisonment. As you see, not a Muslim groomer or a Pakistani in sight, and all carefully chosen words. In short, disgusting. But not quite as awful as the Muslim teenager who was spared a jail sentence for raping a 13-year-old he found on Facebook because Rashid didn't know rape was illegal because he had attended a strict Islamic school where they are taught women are worthless. Judge, wall and gun, and Rashid castration and deportation, and that school should be closed down. In short, the Rashid tale is from Little John, who never fails to make me laugh, even though I am of the despised far right, and sums up our England today in his quiz, which is enough to make all of us cry tears of despair. But I'm still hoping for New Year's Day, and the white cliffs of Dover, and the disappearance of the Channel, and the huge tsunami to wipe out Sumatra and all the poor abused animals in that so-called zoo. A really bad plague of bear bile disease to strike China, and of course stop all traffic and goods from there in the meantime. And a complete blackout of all technical things in India to happen before New Year. So back to my potions, salts and spells, and that sodding cauldron I stored some years ago. Because I also believe that North Korean runt of a petty dictator needs a lesson, and a harsh one at that, if only for being the ugliest guy in the world. So that is that, despondent from Penge, but up and fighting in the new year, never give up and never ever surrender. And finally, talk about small shots below the belt. A woman let her husband know their marriage is over by posting a message on the sign outside their local pub asking for divorce. A woman let her husband know she wanted a divorce on a bar sign. The wife persuaded the manager of Noah's Yard in Swansea to change the shop front sign to say, "Paul, I am divorcing you," and it was displayed on Saturday. The unnamed woman then texted her husband to ask him to read the sign, which she said left him furious. The woman, who is a regular at the bar in South Wales, said she wanted to name and shame her husband after he allegedly had an affair. She said, "I was angry and upset, so I wanted a sign to go up for everyone to see. We've been together for years and it's so sad it has come to this. I am absolutely devastated and going through a really tough time at the moment. A lot of my friends and family have seen it and have been supporting me. I did feel a bit better once the sign went up. I wanted to name and shame him." However, this woman had used a bar sign to propose to her husband just last year, so clearly marriage is a new concept in that part of the world. The message was changed today to, "By the way, I am keeping the dog." Bar owner Noah Redfern said the magnetic sign outside is often used to support causes in the community and the area's sports team. However, Mr Redfern said this is the first time they've been asked to post a message signalling the end of a marriage. He said maybe this will become a new way of asking for a divorce. This presenter says, "Oh God help us." You've been listening to The World at 8. I am Lynn Mozart and I wish you all a very good night. We will be on air again Monday the 30th of December with a short news broadcast, and back to normal on Friday the 3rd of January for the start of 2014. A happy and a safe weekend to you all. And transport hubs. The move comes as Bulgarians and Romanians are handed unrestricted working rights in the UK from January the 1st, prompting fears that up to 50,000 people from those countries will come here every year for the next 5 years. And the rest. Police have been given new powers to enforce a rough sleeping exclusion zone around tourist hotspots in London. The new powers could be used to create no-go areas around Marble Arch, Park Lane and Victoria Station, scenes of an 18-month fight to remove Roma. News today, my friends. Britain's new no-go areas for Roma. Exclusion zones could be set up around tourist hotspots and major public areas to stop an expected surge of Roma migrants sleeping rough and harassing passers-by with aggressive begging. The Mail on Sunday can reveal. New powers called Public Space Protection Orders, PSPOs, which come into operation next April, will be deployed to stop gangs of homeless Eastern Europeans squatting around some of the country's most famous landmark squatters. A spokesman for the Home Office said PSPOs, part of the Antisocial Behaviour, Crime and Policing Bill, currently going through Parliament, would speed up Council's ability to stamp out problems. He added, "We are bringing in new, fast and adaptable powers to make it quicker and easier for local authorities to protect their communities while protecting the freedoms of law-abiding people." £30 million for wind turbines that don't work when it's windy. Wind farms.
You're listening to The World at 8 with Lynn Mozart. The World at 8, the number one in nationalist news.
Highlights of the news today, Friday the 27th of December 2013. Britain's new no-go areas for Roma. £30 million for wind turbines that don't work when it's windy. Foreign doctor attacked female patient who disagreed with diagnosis. Burglar returned to rape victim and the awesome courage that saved her. 9 in 10 babies born in parts of Britain have a foreign parent. Thought for the day, just a small one, honestly. And finally, talk about small shots below the belt. UK news, and it's just the UK.